Hey y'all, it's Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis, and today I want to show you a few things underneath the shade cloth. As you can see, it kind of looks shady on my face. As many of you know, I put up the shade cloth, and it's got about 50 to 60% shade, so it's noticeably cooler in here. And the sun's sort of getting low in the sky, but man, just walking under here feels so much nicer than walking around in the full sun, where it just instantly feels much warmer. But today I want to show you a couple of things. Specifically, I'll start with a blooming Brassavola nodosa, which is really nice looking. It's amazing how the breeding has come along. And then I'll just show you a few cool things around the grow space. I've got a Cattleya Amethyst glosse division that I cut off, and then I'm bringing up, and actually I think I'm going to make another one of those from one of my favorite Amethyst glosses. Get them both rooted and growing happily, then probably sell them in the fall. Cattleya Hardyana, actually it's one of the pendentives. It is pendentive, so it's not Hardyana. It's the complex hybrid with Hardyana and Lodogesii. It's blooming, or it's about to bloom right now, which is really weird for this time of year. And then I've got some cool spikes coming in on a couple of my Catasetums, and then I'll just show you a few interesting odds and ends like that. And it's always fun, exciting time of the year to have everything in full growth, and it's sort of between the bloom seasons, but it's nice to have things in bloom aside from that sort of extended spring blooming time for a lot of Cattleyas, and then the sort of extended blooming time in the fall for a lot of Cattleyas and Catasetums. But anyway, enough blabbering. Let me turn the camera around and show you some cool stuff. Alright, so here's that Brassavola nodosa. And such a great flower. This is one that really should be in just about every collection. Truly just a bulletproof plant that's beloved by beginners and advanced growers like myself alike, and the breeding has come a long way. So these flowers are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You can see some ants kind of cruising up and down. This spike was heavy enough that it couldn't really support itself, but you can see that it's such a popular species, and there's so much line breeding, which is kind of interesting for a plant with flowers who are basically light yellow or green and white, right? So you can see the spots there in the throat. Like that is an exceptional amount of color for a Brassavola nodosa. So it's interesting that a perennial favorite through the generations, really, is such sort of a quote-unquote boring, plain-looking flower. But man, it's really it's got interesting shape. What it lacks for in color, it's super hardy. It grows super quickly. Like, look at these roots. I got this from Springwater Orchids, I guess probably a year and a half ago, and it's just taken over this pot. I've got it in there with a bunch of osmunda fiber in a clay pot, and the roots are just going crazy. It's starting to come in on its own in terms of putting out flowers regularly. And this is one that Tan Nguyen, I'm probably butchering his name, I think this is from his breeding collection. He was really excited about it, trying to pull it out, the tag out of the pot here. But so it was Springwater, one of his favorites, by a large green select. And I think Springwater is an awarded clone. But anyway, if this is one that you don't have in your collection, I really think you probably should have it. So the next one that I want to show you is these. Well, so I've got two Amethyst glosses. I have this one, and I'll show you a flower of it. This is my favorite giant Amethyst glossa. I say giant, it's just a large mature plant. It's diploid, so it's a lot smaller than the polyploids, but the flowers are just stunning, as you can see. So I noticed that it was overgrowing its pot, much in the same way that you see on that growth right there. So I cut this division off probably 3 or 4 months ago, and the new roots on the new growth should have grown in already. And this new growth here will put out new roots probably when the growth is 3/4 mature, so around here. And that's what's going to happen with this one. So this is the same thing. This is almost the identical situation. I'm going to watch for root buds popping out here on the bottom in the next, I mean, it should come out in the next couple of weeks. And then what I'll do when I just see the little tiny pimples coming out, I'll cut right here so that I'll have only 2 bulbs in the back and then 1 lead, which is a bulb less than I'd like. But I can't go back any farther because these new growths are growing on top of the rhizome, so I won't be able to get that extra bulb out. So I really do hate, I got some scale here, I really do hate that I'll have to only have 2 back bulbs, but if I time it right, this new plant will get established really quickly and I should be able to sell it this fall just fine. And of course I would let the new owner know that they can choose from, you know, one of these 3 bulb divisions with a new growth here, or one of these 2 bulbs, and I can even show them this video to show exactly when I was going to cut them and why. But the timing on the bifoliate Cattleya divisions is just so critical. And if you nail it, like I plan to, then you really don't have to have 3 bulbs in the back. You can get away with 2 plus a new growth. Like I said, it's not ideal, but it is what it is. I've got another new growth here that's in the middle of the pot, so I'll have at least 1 set of flowers for next spring. Unfortunately, I'm chopping off the 2 of the new leads, so next spring's flowers will be sort of meager. The next one that's a bit of a surprise here is this Warscewiczii. I said it was pendentive. I always think it's pendentive, but it's actually Snowblind. So it's Snowblind, the clone Kenny, and you can see that it's blooming yet again. It bloomed for me a couple months ago, which is you know, a pretty normal season in the spring for the Warscewiczii and nodosa hybrids. They typically bloom in the spring. And then of course you can see Kenny is growing here at the top of the bulb rather than on a new growth, which is just one of the many indicators that this clone is actually a hybrid and not the species Warscewiczii. Still absolutely stunning and definitely worthwhile having in your collection. The other thing that I want to show you is a folded up flower. So this was that Hardiana that I had, that semi-alba, and I'll show you a photo of it here. I actually took some old pollen that I had from this warscewiczii that I got some years ago. Absolutely stunning, looks almost identical to the Bedford parent, and then I crossed it back to this Hardiana. So I'm hoping that this takes. This folded up almost instantly. The colors on the stem here aren't super great, so it wouldn't surprise me if this did not take, but boy, it folded up quickly. So I'll keep you apprised of this, and if I'm able to get this take, this will be a really cool hybrid. And it has been done before. I can't remember what the name is, so I'll look it up and post it here, but it is a known hybrid, and you know, we just don't see enough Hardiana crosses, I think, in this country. So hopefully I can add to the genetic collection that's out there. Finally, I've got a couple of Catasetums that I got from Adam Driesward this spring. Both of them are putting out spikes, so you can see one spike here. This is Catasetum Desmond Driesward, number 8. And, you know, I got it from him when it was in a pot already and the new growth was too far along to put in the PT method. So I left it in this existing pot here, and then I just put a little thing on the bottom here to capture the water, and it turns it into a water well. So it's almost PET method, but not quite. And then I've got another one over here in the same situation. Another one of these Desmond Dreeswords. This one is number 6 that I got in this pot, and it's got this little water well down here in the bottom, and is also putting out a spike. So I had spikes on both of these earlier in the season, but unfortunately the slugs got to them and took them away. So I was pretty bummed about that, but now I've got these up elevated off the ground much more, and I do not anticipate any creatures taking down the spikes. So I'm really excited to see these. And that's the nice thing about these sort of larger Catasetums, is that once they do reach a certain age, they'll bloom 2, 3, 4 times in a season. So that's what we've got going on here. And just sort of a parting shot from the shade house. Everything is absolutely going as well as I'd hoped. I'm super excited to be back rebuilding the collection in such a way that I have a bunch of happy, healthy plants to show all of y'all in the coming years. And I say rebuilding, and I've actually been reducing the collection mostly, but just sort of getting the collection in a spot that they'll start producing nicely and having the kind of growing conditions that I used to have at my old house. Anyway, hope you're having a great weekend. Bye.